Next, we have Brent Leatherwood, who's the president of the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. And he's a newly elected president, and we're so glad that you could be part of our annual meeting today, Brent.
Well, Tim, it's so good to be with you and to be with all the Baptists in Iowa.
Well, I have a few questions for you. I'm curious about looking back this last few months. What would you say are some of the highlights at the ERLC?
Well, I guess I should start with the incredible privilege that it has been to be named ERLC president, just following the path of so many great leaders that have led this organization. And, you know, I come at it from a couple of different perspectives. I am first and foremost a Baptist layman. I'm a church man who is leading this organization. I'm a deacon at my local church here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I think that helps to just bring kind of that perspective from the pew, if you will, to a national entity. And then, of course, my background, though, is very heavy in the policy arena. And so bringing some of that to the work that we do as we try to represent all of our churches, including our SBC churches in Iowa at the national level and elsewhere. And so obviously just being in this position is itself a personal highlight for me. At the same time, obviously, many folks will remember last summer in 2022, we got the incredible Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe versus Wade. And it didn't eliminate the federal perspective when it comes to abortion. But what the Supreme Court instead did said states will now have a seat at the table when it comes to protecting life. And so I would say a large part of our focus over the last year, over the last several months, has been working at the state level with state partners and figuring out what are some of those solutions to protect life that are being conceived at the state level and at the legislative level. And so getting to work alongside folks just like you, Tim, as you start to map out that policy. And one of the big highlights from 2023 is for the first time, the ERLC released, in cooperation with our state convention partners, a state policy agenda. And that I thought was a very important step because we want to be more active alongside state conventions, local associations, and other committed Southern Baptists who want to push forward in the policy arena. And there's a lot of good work. And with all the gridlock that we're seeing in Congress and out of Washington, it's important that our state leaders understand that they have a responsibility to pass good policy legislation. And then I would say probably another big area is there's been a lot of back and forth about appropriations and funding bills in Congress. A major win this year was the pro-life riders, ones like the Hyde Amendment that say that taxpayer funding cannot go to abortion. Those were all attached. And so that was a big win for our team and one of the highlights certainly of this past year.
All right, we're so grateful for you to being in the trenches and figuring all of that out and representing Southern Baptists. What are some of the challenges that you're working on that cross your desk these days?
Sure. So I'll answer this from like three perspectives: local, national, and international. At the local level, parental rights has been an area where we are seeing an increased focus and where we are putting more and more of our energy. That plays out in a number of ways, but one particular highlight was teaming up with the Iowa Baptist Convention for an amicus brief for a particular policy that was put in place in Iowa that tried to put the state in between parents and their children, particularly on the issue of sexual identity. And we're seeing this crop up in a number of local school districts around the country, and we want to team up with local Baptists on the ground to project our voice and say, this is wrong. The state should not become between parents and what is being taught to their children in the classroom. And I think you're going to see more and more work delivered on this area, the area of parental rights, because we obviously know that God ordained the family, and he ordained that one man and one woman would create children. And we want to make sure that they are leading those households and the children within those households appropriately. At the national level, there continues to be debates circling around life and religious liberty. One area that has become an increased area of attention for us is it's something that is really obscure, and most people won't pay much attention to it out in the real world. But the ability to provide public comments about proposals that are going into various areas of the executive branch, that's an important, I think, tactically an important move for us to be more present on. And just this last 6 months, we have filed 8 different public comments. And the important thing about these public comments is they get the Southern Baptist Convention on the record about something, and it requires the government to respond to us, to justify what it is that they're doing. And these areas have been about conscience rights. They've been about transgender ideology. They've been about abortion. And we have been active on behalf of Southern Baptists in those areas. And then internationally, we have seen just in recent weeks with the heinous attack by Hamas on Israel and the innocent loss of life in that moment, we have just seen this continued growing threat from autocratic regimes and terrorists who want to target innocent life and innocent civilians. And so we created an evangelical statement in support of Israel that said Israel has both a right to exist and a right to defend itself. And in doing so, it shouldn't obviously target innocent life, but it's been well received across the SBC and across the wider evangelical world. And folks can find that on our website. And pastors, we would encourage you to contribute your name as well. But in all of this, a consistent through line is we're being a voice for the vulnerable. Wherever lives are imperiled, wherever people are placed in vulnerable positions, we want to speak up for them. And that's certainly something that we're doing.
And we so appreciate that. And we were glad to be signers on that, right out of the starting blocks. I want to let you know that here in Iowa, we want to be good partners with the ERLC and that you produce a lot of helpful resources. What are some ways we can stay connected or have access to what you're producing?
Well, the first and foremost, we have an award-winning magazine called Light Magazine that our team spends hours and hours producing, and it's really rich and it's very distinctively Baptist. So folks can go to ERLC.com and sign up to receive a free copy of Light Magazine. And this isn't just a glossy with a bunch of pictures. It's got really good material in there that I think all of your folks, whether you're a pastor or someone in the pew, you'll find it beneficial. At the same time, we produce a number of online resources that are free to our churches that can be shown before a Wednesday night worship or Sunday morning before things get going. Most recently, we produced one on racial unity, giving churches practical steps that they can take towards achieving racial unity, no matter what context they are planted in. So you can find that on our website, ERLC.com, but it's called Simple Steps to Racial Unity. And it's simply a packaged program that we have from the SBC annual event that we did on Monday night at the annual meeting. And so that's available for folks. At the same time, we have other resources that are devoted to our 4 policy areas, our 4 main channels. Those are life, religious liberty, marriage and family, and human dignity. There's a number of resources that can be printed out by a church staff and handed to folks as they are walking through. And I think everyone will find them very beneficial to helping explain what the ERLC does on behalf of Southern Baptists in the public square.
Very good. Well, Brent, we'd like to hear a lot more. And so how about you coming next year to the BCI annual meeting, Lord willing, on the first part of November next year. And interestingly enough, it's the Saturday before the Tuesday that's election day. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from you and you participating in the BCI annual meeting next year.
Absolutely. I think that was good planning on your part because that's already on my calendar.
Very good. That's nice. Any last words for our audience of pastors and messengers and guests of the BCI annual meeting?
Well, first and foremost, again, looking forward to next year. I think there's no better place to be than Iowa in an election year. And so looking forward to that. But then if you would just be in prayer for our team, there are a lot of complex and challenging issues out in the public square. And some of them we are going to speak to very authoritatively. And so if you would just pray for discernment for our team as we engage those issues to make sure that we are representing the Baptist distinctives that we all hold dear as Southern Baptists as we do so. And then just, as we look out into that public square, there's just a lot of chaos, whether it is in Congress, whether it is in, as we talked about before, the classroom. We need to be peacemakers in this. And that's what we are trying to do. That doesn't mean that we ever step back from our principles. No, we lead with those. But we want to, as we are doing so, help people understand that the reason we're speaking into this is because we want it for their flourishing. And ultimately, we know that that only comes with a relationship with Jesus Christ. And that is why we consider ourselves in many ways to be missionaries that are sent into the public square. So whether we're talking with media personalities, folks on Capitol Hill, or just peers that are in the public policy arena, we always want to make sure that we are pointing them towards their one true Savior, and that's Jesus Christ. So if you could just pray for us as we conduct that work.
Thank you, Brent, and we will remember to pray for you. And thank you for our conversation today and your time at the BCI annual meeting.
Thank you, Tim.